Okay, but what even is a letter of continued interest? Hi, I'm Stephanie with Principiate Tutors, and today we're going to be going over how to actually write a letter of continued interest, or LOCI. This is part 2 of our LOCI series, so if you didn't watch the first video and you have no idea what a letter of continued interest even is, be sure to check that one out and then come back here. Okay, so first things first, who's reading this letter? Dean of Admissions and the Admissions Committee. That means that you need to actually address the letter to the Dean of Admissions and the Admissions Committee. Now, if you're thinking, but Stephanie, I don't know the name of the Dean of Admissions, how do I address the letter to them? I'm going to tell you how to figure it out. Okay, so first, go to google.com. I'm so sorry, I've decided that bit is potentially too snarky. But I'm not even kidding, just literally go to Google and in the search bar, just type in, Dean of Admissions, Dean of Undergraduate Admissions, at XYZ University, wherever it is that you've been waitlisted or deferred from. It might take a couple of tries and a little bit of searching before you get the correct name. Make sure it actually says like either Dean of Admissions or Head of Admissions. They'll be typically at the top of the page, and double check that it is for the undergraduate school. Okay, so now that you know who it is that you're actually addressing the letter to, we're going to show you what this might look like, mostly because we talked a little bit about what content to include already. So here's an example from a student who was successfully taken off of the Duke admissions waitlist and accepted into Duke. Okay, there it is. Pause to read. Okay, so let's break this one down. First things first, the letter is addressed correctly. And then as we get into the letter, we open with gratitude. Why is this important? I know that for some reason students have this picture of admissions officers and the people who are either accepting or rejecting students into schools as these like absolute ghouls who are just maniacally laughing as they say, haha, reject to this perfectly good candidate to, whatever prestigious school it is that you've been deferred from. I can promise you that is not true. A lot of the times, the decisions that they make are difficult and they think about them very, very thoroughly. The truth is, there are only so many seats open at any given university. They have to reject some students. And it takes a long time to go through the thousands of applications that they have to go through. Your application was one of thousands. And if you are deferred or on a wait list, that means they spent a long time thinking about your application. And they decided that you would be a student that they would want at their school if space allows. You should thank them for that time. Even if it feels not great to be on that wait list, I promise it was a hard choice for them, and thanking them goes a long way. Okay, so next, the student chose to jump in with their most exciting update. So not only did their project win first place in both school and regional science fairs, but they're also still working to improve it, and they explained, its potential impact to the committee. It shows that they clearly really care about what they're doing. You can just tell from the way that they're talking about it, that this is something they've been working on for a long time. It's not something that they just did for college. So their next update takes up only a line, but National Merit Scholar is nothing to sniff at, especially if you are either deferred or on a wait list. This is actually especially true if you're on a wait list. Like, that scholarship money is worth a mention if you have any to mention. Unfortunately, whether or not you can actually afford to attend the school is really important for students who are on a wait list. If they couldn't offer you a spot up front, they likely won't be able to offer you very much in aid, and so letting them know that you'll have some financial support from somewhere else is a good call. And then after they've described all their accomplishments, we get a little bit more of their personal voice in here. And I think that this is really important and probably what humanized them enough to get them off of a waitlist. Because it is hard to get off a waitlist. It's less difficult to be accepted if you are deferred than off of a waitlist. So this LOCI kind of dates itself with the inclusion of like the recent COVID-induced breakdown. But I think this was a really smart way of describing that, because we get that taking an online course in computational neuroscience was just like a fun thing that they did with their free time for the student. And then in the same sentence, we hear that they finished their own personal goal of watching every Friends episode twice. And we hear a little bit about their personal connection to their family, so spending more time with their sister. I've had students include this kind of a personal note in a lot of their LOCIs. So, one student decided to start a book club with a few of her close friends. Another student picked up watercolor painting after a 2-year hiatus. She just had a little bit more time after her applications were sent in. Another student started visiting his grandmother every week to document her life story in increments. So every time you visited her, you'd ask her about like a single story from her life and jotted it down in this notebook. Just give them a little window to your life so they know the personal human side of you. And then finally, we end with a little bit of flattery and gratitude again. So this part at the very end, they mentioned that Duke has truly set itself apart for me with its unique dedication to undergraduate research. If you don't really have very many updates for the school, I think a lot of the letter can just be this, not bland flattery, like get a little bit more specific. Talk about what kind of research, something that they've done recently that's really impressed you. But either way, you should talk about the school and why you like it at some point, even if it's just a little line like that. So I think it's worth a mention that it is easier to be admitted as a deferred student than it is to be admitted off of a wait list. But to protect your own sanity, please do not go and Google acceptance rates for waitlist students or acceptance rates for deferred students, especially at your own specific school. It's just going to cause you more dread. Write the letter, send it out, wash your hands of it. In a future video in part 3, we are going to go over one more example. This one in particular is the MIT Fun form. So if you're currently working on that, I believe it's due February 7th. Don't worry, we've got your back. But if you still have questions about Lokis in general, or something in this video wasn't clear, feel free to leave your comments below. We're more than happy to answer your questions. And we'll see you next time.